but we are live.
All right.
Hold on. Welcome back to Burning Subjects, everyone. And this episode, well, we'll get into that at first, but let's introduce our attendees, I guess. Some say he discovered. Yeah.
Sorry.
Some say he discovered the meaning of life and won't tell anyone. And that he can make his cat shit by pointing the TV remote at it and pressing the volume button. But all we know is that his name is Jim Vanderkolk.
What the hell kind of introduction was that? Some say that some say that I feel sexually attracted to German decapods, and that I'm going to murder Steven for that Photoshop of me in the cab of the 6 for the 21st Century Limited.
And now the next one.
Hello.
Hello.
General today?
Yes. But first we shall introduce one at a time. Now, some say he has 16 counts of vandalism and that he has an extremely vast knowledge of all the assholes in Uranus. All we know is that his name is Steven.
Yeah, I'm the most extreme homer of all time, boys and girls.
Okay, next one. Some say his obsession with Connie's had made him forget the word about unique. And that his brain is from a 129-year-old man. We don't know this for sure, but we know his name is Ryan.
Yeah.
And
wow, cricket noises. Wow.
Now for the last one. Some say she waited 13 years to buy a microphone, and that she eats chips dipped in liquid cement. We don't know this for sure, but her name is Lena.
Yes, hello.
This is our first time having a girl at the stream, and she is our special guest, I guess.
Yes, everybody, it's finally happening.
Yes.
We have some girl power here. Okay, Jim, what are you doing? Are you trying to prevent that pilot bogey from derailing by putting a better pilot bogey? I'm redoing the sliders there, but as I wanted to say, as Billy Harrington would say, ass we can.
Yes. But now that we have gone through our
introduce one more person.
Oh, who did I miss?
Liso.
Oh, yes. Some say his custom-made locomotive has the ability to make you come in 0.0009 seconds. And that he is the only person and that he is the only person in his family to ever not have a job at a strip club.
Wait, who left? Let's see, that was... I don't know who left.
But anyway, we don't know this for sure, but his name is Riso.
Come on, Windows Media Player. Don't look on the bright side, Jim. Once we make models of the 5-chime locomotives, we won't have to deal with this garbage.
Yeah. But anyway, now before we get onto the main, well, let's get to what the subject is. To run or not to run? To run or not to run? That is the question. Whether is noble they will suffer the outside elements or the torture of the cutter's torch, or to live the joys of preservation and run with excursions of children laughing their asses off.
Yeah.
But yes, we are going to discuss...
Good old-fashioned cock and ball torture.
We are going to... Basically, we are going to discuss whether these certain locomotives have the capability to ever run again, or if they shouldn't ever run again, because they are either too powerful, too big, too slow, or just too historically significant.
Or they're just too impractical or fucking ugly.
Yeah. But before we get to that, on to the cool wall, of course.
All right, yes, here's the. Yeah, this is probably some of my favorite parts of the video.
All right, so let's start with
This
the.
is a segment that we started doing recently, Lena, where Andrew holds up pictures of a few locomotives and we flop it onto the cool wall.
Yes,
Similar to like God actually did on Top Gear
yes.
back in the Clarkson era.
But I think we should make it a little bit quicker. So, what's the first locomotive?
Okay, the first one is a small, chunky, wobbling locomotive that runs in a very small area, and that is this locomotive.
Central of New Jersey 113?
Yep.
That goes in Sub-Zero. That is definitely an average. No, Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero. That thing's an anthracite burner.
Wait, what?
That thing is an anthracite burner.
I did not know this.
And really, everyone's chuck it into Sub-Zero. Let me actually get a picture of the engine so Lena can actually see what we're talking
Well,
about.
actually, I have my camera displayed.
CNJ locomotives surviving.
I actually have my camera displayed on.
Oh,
So now you
that's
get.
extra handy. But just in case, if you look in USA locomotives, Lena, there's a picture of the first engine that Andrew's going to pop onto the cool wall this episode.
Oh, it's taking a minute to load. Oh, here we are.
All right. So
New Jersey 113. I also like the.
let's
the
put it in like.
number plate.
Let's put it in between Santa Fe 1010 and Southern Pacific 5021, right there.
So that'll be the cool section or Sub-Zero.
It's directly in the middle. And now,
And not to mention, it's the smallest steam locomotive ever operating on the Reading Blue Mountain in Northern, or if you even like that name.
well,
Blue Mountain in Reading.
yeah, I like Blue Mountain.
Reading
Reading.
Northern.
Well, whatever works, I guess. But now, one sec, I appear to be having a bit of a problem. I just need to get the tape. I'm gonna
Tape! Flex tape, clear.
flex tape.
No,
Clear.
duct tape. Duct tape.
It's flex
The stuff of legend, as it's proven by the Mythbusters.
Fuck tape.
Now just super glue it.
Oh wait, duct tape. That's also the handyman secret weapon. Have you guys ever watched the Red Green Show?
No?
But anyway, on to our next locomotive, which is another. This is a controversial one from an era in which their railroad was pretty oblivious and stupid at the time, except for one example, which we've already put on the wall. But this one is one of those examples that has gotten a lot of love in model form. But when it comes
Show up, my
to
son.
yeah,
Wait.
but it's this.
It's, okay, that's maybe that is definitely in like maybe somewhere between mediocre.
Yeah, borderline average and mediocre, which are two new sections we added.
Yeah, we
It was fixed at high speeds, but it was really expensive to maintain, and at low speeds, it consumed a lot of coal.
Yeah.
so
And
yes,
in reverse.
so yes, it looks cool, but it performed badly. So let's put it in.
Horribly.
Let's put it in mediocre. Underneath the S15, right here. Let's put it underneath the S15. Yeah, like, and no one can see it.
Looking up the American-built steam turbines, but that doesn't automatically make it the best.
No one can see it underneath the S15. Anyway,
I mean, it's better than the turbine electric locomotives. I'll give you that.
yeah.
Direct drive is always. I prefer direct drive over.
Now,
The S2 was a direct drive, I believe.
I was gonna say, so with the turbo motors, direct drive over.
Anyway,
turbine
let's move
electric.
on.
and now we have a locomotive which actually brings me to tears sometimes when I think about it. But
God.
is one of the last locomotives to ever operate in constant revenue service, and that would be this.
Oh yeah, Sub-Zero, Crab Orchid in Egyptian number 17. That is in Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero. Put it in Sub-Zero.
Zero, I guess.
I guess so.
I don't really know much about it, but
Somebody else just provide more pictures or let's see. That's the second one. That's the prep one.
For those who
Let's see. What was
Crab Orchard,
and Egyptian number 17.
Crab Orchard and Egyptian number 17.
Interesting 280 because it was the last steam locomotive used exclusively in revenue freight service in the United States as late as 1986.
Despite having the word Egyptian in its railroad name, it never operated anywhere near Egypt.
So let's.
It was in Marion, Illinois, I think. Now the engine's at the port.
Anyway.
Scenic Valley Railroad.
Anyway, though, now that
Next locomotive.
we got that one over with,
Let's see.
I love this locomotive, by the way. Anyway, on to the next one, which this is a extinct mountain type, which most people would consider is one of the most underrated types of
Let
mountain.
me try and predict the future. Union Pacific 7000s.
Boston, Maine, 482s.
Southern Pacific's MT class.
Oh yeah, that's
We still got it right.
Oh, yeah, that's spice. That is spice.
This-
Pacific locomotives are love and life.
These right here,
Love.
I actually know a guy at a Show Me, which is the model train club I go to. I know a guy who has 3 Broadway limited models of these. 3 of them. And he constantly...
Wait till it looks best
Really
without.
like real locomotives.
Yeah, but
It
sadly...
looks best with large ass headlights without skyline casing.
Sadly, all of these were scrapped. But their legacy lives on in the beauty of their mountain types with the skylight casing, which honestly is a very unique feature for a mountain type. So I'm going to put
I
that...
mean, some of the
in.
from what I can remember,
I'm gonna
some of the MT4s were actually painted in daylight colors, from what I can remember.
I'm going to put that in cool.
But they didn't have
Wait.
side skirts or anything.
Wait,
like
did you guys
We
say
said
Sub-Zero or cool?
Sub-Zero. We said Sub-Zero.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
They're Sub-Zero.
I will put it underneath the other Southern Pacific locomotive over here, which is 5021. So that's very fitting. Now we have our C&O locomotive of the day, and this is a
Here we go.
This is a type of locomotive that back in its day was made exclusively out of the development of superpower.
I can already hear it coming. It's the Allegheny.
No. It's the,
Sure.
however,
Canal.
However, one of these locomotives sadly did go Allahu Akbar.
Oh, it's a T1?
Cool.
Yes,
Cool.
yes.
Cool.
That is fucking love. That is fucking life.
So let's put it in cool.
Erie, Berkshire would go all the way to it, go all the way to Kanawha through Texas.
Okay, let's put that underneath.
No, the Texas came first, then came the Canals, so.
So let's
Let
put
me get it again.
I was trying to. I mean, the Erie,
Lena, are you seeing the picture that I'm sending in USA locomotives, just in case Andrew's stream was a little bit hazy?
Yeah, I saw them.
Okay.
Yeah, just let me know what those engines look like in person.
And now
I know, like that joke I was trying to make was actually because of an Erie Berkshire that goes an Erie Berkshire enlarged to a Texas type and a Texas type to a nickel plate Berkshire and so on.
Reacting to
Well, guess what? The Erie Berkshire is also extinct.
yeah, and if you don't like the T1s, look at what I got here.
Say C&O T1s because there's plenty of locomotives numbered classified as T1s.
Yeah.
You know what my T1? Hey, you know what my favorite T1 is?
What?
2102.
Reading.
I can't complain about it because it's a good locomotive. But anyway, now onto our last American locomotive of the day, and then we'll go on to our 3 British ones. Some say these locomotives are rather pathetic, and some say that are rather unique in the preservation era. But all we know is that they are the nickel plate Hudsons.
Sub-Zero. Those are so underrated.
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero, I guess. They were the only nickel plate road steam locomotives to ever carry any kind of smoke deflectors. I'm not mistaken.
I mean, you do got a point, Daniel. You do got a point.
They're pretty delicate, but they're probably the most Chad nickel plate engines.
Yeah.
But they're the smallest superpower locomotives.
Allow me to actually take this chance to educate Lena here. If you look on the latest picture, that's one of those engines that we're just talking about. You see those big plates on the sides there?
Yes.
Those are smoke deflectors. Basically, the way it works is that as the locomotive is moving forward, or maybe backwards, air is being channeled between the boiler and those plates to basically create like a draft or like a wall of air that basically channels the smoke upwards. That way, in case the locomotive may have some kind of exhaust system that might cause smoke to fall over the cab, those deflectors will keep the smoke up, so that way the fireman and the engineer still have a clear view. Even if the big ass boiler tends to get in the fucking way.
I see.
But now onto our first British locomotive. And this one is probably the most British locomotive I have ever seen and have ever loved. These locomotives were sort of the benchmark setting locomotives that created the A3s and the A4s. These locomotives were quite literally the benchmark. And they are...
So the A1s, I put them in cool.
the Peppercorn A1s, but specifically Tornado.
Hey, Andrew, you kind of messed things up because the Peppercorn A1s came way after the Grizzly A1s, which were rebuilt as A3s.
They were also the A1s were reclassified as A10s after Great Northern was rebuilt.
Well, you know what I mean, though. These locomotives were benchmark setting, especially since, Tornado was built, being the first time a Peppercorn Pacific was built.
Since Sub-Zero.
And
If you look at their locomotives, there's a glorious picture of it.
as well as
Enough of the fact, that engine wasn't built in the steam era. It rolled out of the shops in 2008.
What?
and the best part is
Because the original 49 locomotives built using that particular design, that exact class, none of those were preserved. And a lot of people felt like it was a missing link. So a bunch of steam enthusiasts with particularly well-paid jobs came together and decided, hey, why don't we just build a new one? And they began in 1989. 19 years later, that's the result.
But
And yes, it was featured in Top Gear, The Great Race to the North.
yes,
the best episode of Top Gear, by the way. Although I put it
St. James Bay is
and not to mention that Tornado was also featured in Paddington, and it was also the first locomotive in quite a long time to go 100 miles an hour on the main line. And it was quite a
The
feat.
last one, the last one was the last one was actually a rebuilt Merchant Navy in 1967.
Yes. But I think that let's put it like right next to Crab Orchard and Egyptian number 7, right?
So it's Tornado should definitely be Sub-Zero.
Definitely.
Even
This is
if they already be getting a little bit bored of her, she's still a fucking pioneer in a new chapter of steam locomotive preservation.
you can say that again.
She's inspirational.
It's about bringing back extinct designs through new locomotives.
I dare say 5550.
I checked. The tugboat is long gone, so we got plenty of time.
So what's the next locomotive?
Well, we have 2 more British locomotives left, and this one is fairly simple.
It's a Stanier 8F or Elniar 06.
It's a Stanier 8F.
Elniar
Yeah, but
Average.
but that's branded with LNDR, but that's definitely cool.
Yeah, let's just put it in cool because it's not because they're good performing locomotives, and they're
Yeah.
above average, but they're not enough to go into Sub-Zero because
Yeah, but they also turned out to be decently successful for passenger assignments too, even if they were prioritized for freight.
I mean, yeah, no, they could hit 60 miles an hour, which is why yeah, no, VR actually decided to basically during VR days, VR decided to basically rebalance the wheels on some members, which was indicated by a white star.
So those could actually go a little faster.
Yes.
But anyway,
Okay, let me
now for the
find a
last.
pretty good picture. Okay, go on, Andrew.
For the last locomotive of the day. And this one I actually mentioned, I mentioned with these guys earlier, but they probably weren't expecting it to be put on the wall. And that is this.
P1 Mikados. Sub-Zero.
Yeah,
Sub-Zero.
Sub-Zero.
I
Or
think
Tomsink.
something between Cool and Sub-Zero.
Like, so basically, right? Yeah, I gotta say, because, I mean, they inspired the P2s, first of all. And two, look at
You're
them.
running out of room on the cool wall, aren't you?
No,
Yeah,
I'm
you
not.
need a bigger wall.
We need to build a wall. Yeah,
Just start
Tell me
taking
you're
him on
not
the
like Donald Trump.
screw you. About me country again.
Yeah. Yes, we know we're also in here for bad jokes.
Yeah.
That's okay. I just
And
relate.
the occasional inappropriate one. I mean, like, it would have been fucking amazing if Dan was here. Like, he would probably be kind of struggling to keep okay, sorry for going already with the inappropriate jokes, but he would probably be, like, struggling to keep his dick in his pants because they're such a very attractive young woman.
Hold on. I need to get to.
You could change to go off topic, or you gotta start talking about locomotives.
Ah, yes. I guess we shall. I would like.
All right, I just flipped the switch. Now we're going on the right side of the track.
All right. So
Okay. But Andrew,
I would like to start off with a locomotive, which on the Santa Fe with Santa Fe enthusiasts has been quite a talking point, and that is whether Madam Queen will ever run again.
Madam Queen, number 5,000.
Yes. If you guys don't know,
Actually, dare say that's extremely unlikely, I think, at this point.
yeah,
Nobody wants to restore a Texas type. I mean, they're more than like they're not really that fast, although they're fucking brutes. I'll tell you that.
Yeah,
I mean, the Santa Fe. I mean,
point power than speed, which doesn't make them that practical in today's era.
I mean, like the Kansas City Southern ones could hit good speeds, and were even timed on passenger train, even in May schedule, or even fast enough to actually work on schedules that timed passenger train would do.
but actually,
I mean, a good picture, preferably not by that.
for 410-2s, they could actually reach up to 75 miles an hour, so they were pretty fast for 410-2s. I mean, no,
410-2.
I meant 210-4s, Texas types, but whatever. But on,
410-2s are overlets.
but if you guys don't,
Pacifics.
if you guys don't know about,
Keep in mind
bef-
that isn't 5,000's frame shorter than 2926's frame.
yes, actually, but Anyway.
Here's a picture of the engine in question.
but anyway,
Also,
though,
in terms of
Madam Queen.
I would like to say,
Also, in terms of
Andrew talk for once.
yes, I need to. Okay, now 55,000, if you don't know, was the first Texas type that was freshly made by the Santa Fe. And, well, they were made for slow freight, but with the huge drivers on these things, they could actually achieve some pretty high speed. And most of them were retired and then scrapped. But some of the cool thing is,
Also,
the most of most of,
can I say this?
What?
It has a Blount style bell placement.
yes, which if you don't know what that is, it's basically they mount the bell on the Lamport ejector, which it kind of looks like a Russian hat.
Oh, no. It's
They mounted it in front of that big tube, which is the preheater.
The pre
the Lesco
Lamport ejector.
Lesco pre-water heater.
I can't believe.
Should we even call it a Blount style belt placement? Because long before
Yeah,
Steamtown was founded,
Yeah.
It's because, that's what, the Steamtown Beauty treatment was, basically. And that's the first locomotive that I remember with an Alesco feed water heater and a bell on the top of the smoke box. That's why I call it a lounge-style bell placement.
But
Now what I'm going to call it the Santa Fe style bell placement or 5,000 style bell placement.
but anyway, though,
Sorry.
Let's get back to
before most of these locomotives were retired, some of them actually got to see work in Pennsylvania alongside the infamous Pennsylvania J1s, in which
Why were they infamous? If anything, they were good locomotives, just not homegrown Pennsy designs.
exactly, they were famous because they weren't. Well, they were infamous because they weren't full-grown Pennsy design. That's why most of us love them, because they're not. Anyway, onto the thing. After that, well, most of them were actually cut up, but
There are 5 preserved Texas types from the Santa Fe.
yes, but
I know there's, obviously there's 5,000, which I don't know where that's preserved, but...
It's preserved in
Texas.
Okay,
Amarillo, Texas.
in Texas, but there's also 5011, I believe, at the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis.
and 5030 right here in Santa Fe.
5017.
5030 I've actually seen myself, and
5021 is the first one that I knew of. That's in Sacramento.
Not to be confused with another. Should probably talk about.
we'll definitely talk about the other 50.
Yeah, because that's kind of sus.
And
It's always fun to have two. It's always kind of funny when there are 2 steam engines in preservation with the exact same engine number, so that way you can make the joke of, hey, there's an imposter among us.
Like
Among Us memes.
anyway,
Also, the other funny thing too is that in terms of tractive effort, 5,000 is the most powerful Texas type.
why?
Over 113,000 pounds.
That's actually not bad. Wow. But for a Texas type, that's a lot, actually.
I'm sure we'll be talking about another Texas type in this video, right?
Yeah.
6, 4, 3.
16. Anyway, though, before we continue, I just wanted to mention that, we're going to try and get through as much as we can because we only have an hour left. But, Steven, if you will... Steven,
Oh, what?
if you will talk about 722.
Oh,
That's a full history lesson.
yeah. Well, how about we start it off with saying, why does GSMR even still have the thing in their shops? Like, I know they're like trying to restore it or some shit, but like, give it to someone else if you're not even going to operate it, or at least cosmetically touch it up and give it to a museum or something like that. I don't know. Give it a better home if you're not going to fucking work on it, or store it better. Find a better way to store it instead of just keeping it in pieces. Yeah, they planned to restore the engine in the early 2000s, and they just dismantled the engine, and then that's it.
And,
Yeah,
well,
in pieces ever since.
the question is, though, do you guys think that she'll ever get a chance of steaming again?
Highly unlikely, sadly.
I agree, sadly.
I mean, basically, the big thing with this engine is that it's one of Steven's all-time favorite locomotives, and it operated starting in the 1960s, I believe, in preservation.
1970 to 1985, so only 15 years. So, 630 and 4501 obviously operated for longer. So, 722 was the last one to be put in service and the first one to be taken out of service.
At least after its revenue career. So,
Yes.
as a museum locomotive, it was the last of the 3 big southern locomotives to be refurbished, and the first one to be taken out.
Press F to pay respects for 722.
Yeah, and now it's sitting in pieces.
Allow me to play a sad song with the world's smallest violin.
Although it sure as hell has a higher chance of operating than fucking the canned Canuck.
I mean-
So, yeah. Lena, here's a picture of its boiler.
Oh wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's what 22 is now, unfortunately. And my theory is if GSMR actually got the thing running in the 2000s, my guess is that its restoration would have been.
It would have been a bit of a rush job.
Or as you put it, a botch job.
Yeah. And most likely it would have been out of service by now anyway.
I mean, you're not wrong. And now,
Also, did you guys see the meme with Owen?
I
Yeah, I've seen that. He's going to be very pissed.
well, Ryan.
Below there, there's an Among Us booty shake. I'm sure
Next locomotive, Andrew.
Well,
But yeah, let's move on.
yes, it's Ryan's turn, and Ryan, you are going to have to talk about Lake Superior Ishpeming 35.
Oh.
35
Okay, so
specifically.
apparently it was built by the Overrated Locomotive Works in 1916, originally numbered 19. That was renumbered 31 in the early 1920s, and it got 35 finally in 1925. Of course, it was retired in the early 1960s. It was purchased by John A. Zerbel for his Marquette Huron Mountain Railroad, but never actually got a chance to operate there. Hopefully, we'll talk about the railroad in depth in the not too distant future, but lack of timing. Upon that railroad shut down in 1985, it was sold to the Illinois Railway Museum, where 34 was preserved. And after 34 left, for you know what, 35 is the last LS9 of the Illinois Railway Museum. And, you know, it's kind of deteriorating at this point, despite a good condition headlight.
Well, the real
Yeah,
question is, though,
It's because the locomotive is part of a very big collection, and sadly, they don't have enough manpower or maybe even money to keep everything at least in decent cosmetic shape.
but the question
But
is,
like, when it comes to should it run again? If the Illinois Railway Museum is willing to donate it or sell it for a reasonable price to a bunch of people who have the technical know-how to get this thing running, and if there's enough demand for it,
35 could run again, actually, because I mean,
It's the last LS9 steam locomotive with booster trucks on its tender, you know?
so it has a pretty high tractive effort, and it's a pretty small locomotive. It's manageable. It's easy to restore. Well, sort of, but it's a good locomotive for restoration. And it's also a good locomotive to operate. If there's anything to take from 34 and 33, 35 deserves a chance.
Yeah,
So-
I could restore it. Maybe Andrew could even restore it as a running mate to 769. Or maybe even Stephen will have a change of heart and restore it.
Well, maybe.
All right, can we talk about something a little bit more interesting now?
Yes. Now, let's talk about well, actually, Stephen, since you have a crippling mastodon addiction, how about we talk about the only remaining Southern Pacific mastodon?
Oh, yes. 29. I believe it's actually the oldest preserved 480 in America. I think it was built in 1898, if I'm not mistaken. But I don't know jack shit about that engine. All I know is
we don't have to talk about the history of the locomotive in great depth.
We
But,
really,
like, as far as whether or not it should run again,
honestly,
I absolutely fucking think so.
I think so as well, because,
honestly,
well,
it really should, because that way maybe it can steal some fame from the easiest mastodon to like.
yes, because, I mean,
Or, it will be like a nice, also as a Southern Pacific locomotive, it would be nice to have in service.
exactly. I mean,
You know the new owners of
Great for a tourist railroad. Yeah, Derek.
you know the new owners of 2472? Maybe they could restore 2914.
Or Andrew.
Yeah?
maybe if the NFA Southern will have some kind of operations expansion, maybe you can get your hands on it.
Yes, please.
I will.
Make it
Have a little rivalry, not just in terms of which is better, the 280 consolidation type or the 480 mastodon type.
Well,
That way, also between railroads, Santa Fe or Southern Pacific.
Also, my suggestion, Andrew, for 769, put a different pilot on it because I don't like the switcher pilot.
I mean, we legally actually do need to add a new pilot to the 769, so there's no question there. We actually have to. But
like an actual cow catcher is what I'm talking about.
I know what you mean. We have to add one. I mean, it's kind of like the same situation with 1309, where she has to get a new cow catcher. But
Rock Knocker pilot.
Out of curiosity, how much time do we have left now?
we have about
55 minutes?
about 54 minutes. But anyway, though,
Alright, so anyway, yeah, I mean,
in a nutshell,
2914 should run again.
yes,
I mean,
2914 should run because, well, it's a unique locomotive from a unique railroad, from a new unique age with a unique wheel arrangement.
And although we didn't talk about the history here in great depth, I mean, it does have quite an interesting one. Not to mention that it went through 2 big rebuilds and reclassifications. So yeah, I'd say let the thing run. I mean, Lena, have a look at this in the USA Locomotive channel. You think that's a pretty nice engine?
I do.
although it would be
It's
awesome if
classy
we had,
looking.
you know, one of those weird, you know what, whatever those like dome-like tenders are, like, you know what that,
Those are called wheelback tenders.
yeah, that would be an awesome tender to put behind that engine.
No,
I'm
thank
not
you.
entirely sure about that, but
I don't.
Cool.
Yeah, no,
Like,
I
you know
don't
what
really
the
like.
18 has, right? That narrow gauge engine.
I know that, but I'm not. I'm just not a fan of them because they don't look proportional.
They're unique. They're unique tenders.
yeah, they're pretty quirky tenders. I guess I can kind of concede
Put
to
an
that.
anvil tender. That would they'd probably look nice.
Hey, wait, guys. I was looking in chat, and someone just said 2914 should run again at the Sacramento Southern Railroad. What's that?
Sacramento. Oh God, it was also Elijah who said that.
Of course it was.
Oh. But what about that?
Let me actually.
Isn't that where 2472 now runs?
I think they moved 2472 to the Northwestern Pacific.
Well,
Oh,
Sacramento Southern Railroad. It's a heritage railroad owned by the California State Railroad Museum, which operates excursion trains.
oh,
The
that's
biggest locomotive they can operate is an S100, or sorry, an 060. So
oh.
Wednesday they can restore
So
Mastodon.
OS100s are pretty cool.
I mean,
yeah, they're pretty neat, but
but
if
it's
they can't operate anything bigger than that, sorry, then
I guess
running a,
so. Basically,
even a smallish tender engine on there is out of the question.
2914
Let me think here. Where's
could run if it was smaller, so it can't run basically over there because it's too big.
Maybe the West Inland Railroad?
But let's go on to the next locomotive, which is oh boy. This one is going to be a debate, which is going to be easily solvable, especially because it has a much more famous sister.
Oh,
But-
God. What is it?
838,
Nope,
Conquester 5632.
nope.
Is it Stevens Motor Fuel, an NW433?
No.
Oh,
Is it?
Oh, Southern Pacific 4460.
No. But we will have to talk about that one.
Pacific 3977.
It's not a Southern Pacific locomotive. Okay, I'll just say
Is
it.
it Eastern locomotive?
I'll just say it. It's Pennsylvania Railroad 3750.
Oh.
That
Pennsylvania is Strasburg, and it's rusting away, and it's one of only 2 still existing. The other one is 1361, which operated for about a year in excursion service, and it will never operate again because the Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania is a piece of shit. Oh, there we go. We talked about 3715. Now can we move on?
But in the nutshell, though, do you guys think 3750 will even have the slightest chance of running?
No, it will not. No, it will not.
I mean,
Move on.
Mm.
Move on.
I mean, if it did have a chance, though, like you'd probably also be seeing 460 or 520 running.
Yeah,
True.
like this is in like earlier days in preservation on display, and this is what it looks like now, as basically everything else outside at the Strasbourg Railroad Museum.
Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania. Okay.
Or 6750 or 6755 or all that. You'd see more Pendy locomotives running if Strasbourg would actually run their museum pieces.
Although I actually kind of like 1223 because it's actually a somewhat modern American type locomotive.
Yeah.
I like modern American type locomotives, like not the like 19th century ones. Those are kind of dull, generic.
And next is another retired excursion star, actually.
Ooh.
And this one has been also up to debate for a little while as well. And that would be a locomotive that has been stationed at Steamtown. And that would be Reading T1 number 2124.
Should run again.
Oh,
It's heavily, especially because I think it's the only one with that's preserved with roller bearing.
It actually is, Steven. That is a good point because the 2124 actually is, well, it's the only Reading T1 in existence that actually still has roller bearings. And it's actually, well,
Yeah,
it's,
so that makes it more modern.
it makes it more modern.
it's actually a great for the youngest.
Rolling resistance, which in turn means it can go faster, so it can actually flow better with regularly scheduled passenger traffic.
And it
And
also,
it's by far the youngest of the T1s that
Yeah,
survived.
and it's also the only one that hasn't operated after the Iron Horse Rambles, at least it's the running
Yes.
one.
because after the Rambos, it was sent straight to Steamtown. And, well, it's,
And it's been in Steamtown ever since. And it did get a cosmetic alteration back into its Rambles paint scheme, which looks really nice.
it looks beautiful,
Yeah.
but,
I'm gonna leave a picture of that for Lena. So
but sadly, ever since then, there's not been much.
Ooh, I like it.
But
Yeah, it doesn't really get that much fame. And considering the fact that it actually also pulled the first Iron Horse Rambles excursion.
Exactly.
Why?
the real,
yeah,
why does no one care?
let me actually show you a picture of the first one. This one should really please Andrew.
Oh, that one.
I can see the original in his face.
Hold on, let me get the picture. 2100. I'm gonna look through the cylinder column.
Jim, I'm politely asking.
Hold on.
I know what you want to do.
I'm
Let me make it just a complete clusterfuck.
I'm politely asking you to fuck off.
Here we go. This is 2100's best look right here.
Oh, that's not what I wanted to post, but
Wait, what is it? Let me-
Andrew looks.
Yeah!
Or you could do what they did.
let me make the fun fact even more fun.
Yes.
Because hopefully this picture will fucking load in. Come on, please.
Look, this is. Look.
But yeah, that's
There we go. Voila!
Oh my god. And Jim,
Wait, what?
2100's best look is with the visored headlights and white wall.
Joke's on you, Jim. I can delete that message.
There you go.
Oh, I missed it.
Jim, I'm.
While we're still on the topic of Steamtown, why doesn't Constitution get that much fame?
Good point. Because
she's
Gu-
next. I mean, what?
guys,
No one, very few people care about Boston and Maine 3713 or Constitution.
I mean, the other thing too is that she's an excursion star as well. Like,
and here's
she
another
was the
thing,
last excursion for the B&M.
guys. 3713 is actually one of only 6 remaining Boston and Maine steam locomotives.
6.
Yeah, only 6.
Keep in mind too that the B&M was also a Northeastern Railroad. Northeastern Railroads don't generally.
And keep
get
in
much
mind,
attention
most
and
of
don't
the
Yeah.
and keep in mind,
Also, it can stand for bootlegs and minions.
Oh,
And-
fuck you.
keep in mind another thing though. 3713 is also the only Pacific from the Boston and Maine left in the world.
I know, yeah, but many may say, 3666 is preserved, but the thing is, it doesn't even, it was sunk or something like that. I don't know.
It's in
some
bits.
locomotives don't really count. Like, they're not really preserved. They're not really preserved, but they're not really scrapped either.
Like, they exist, but they're half scrapped. Kind of like 722. Anyway,
like Canadian Pacific, I forgot the road number, but you get the point.
1278. Oh no, wait, that's too soon.
No, whoa.
If you catch my drift. But let's move on.
All right.
Same thing.
Now, I would like to talk about another one myself, and that would be another Reading locomotive. And this one's not a T-Hog, but
1187, I just know it.
yeah, it is 1187. But I mean, it's a
Hold on, guys.
very
My computer's acting up again.
The 1187 is a very debatable one.
Hold on, I'm going to briefly join on my phone, then force a shutdown.
Holy shit,
If you have my prop protection, despawn the train because I can't control
give me my prop protection.
Anyway, though, the 1187 as a debate for restoration is a controversial one, to say the least. Because one, look at it right now. It's in a very poor state. And two, the Strasbourg Railroad didn't handle it very well.
First remover.
Because they actually used the they
Here we
brought,
go.
you see,
I'm deleting it.
while
Hold on.
Stephen is having
Use the smart remover. It's not doing much.
while Stephen is having a freak out.
Can't stop it. What? Move it.
Stephen, calm down.
I'm clicking on it.
Calm down.
Right-clicking. I am right-clicking on the frame or the base. Doing nothing.
Anyway, we're getting a bit off track.
We're derailing.
Anyway, though,
Yeah.
back to 1187. If you look at the 1187 today, you're just going to think, oh, that thing is fucked.
Hey, Andrew.
Yeah?
Remember that one picture?
What one picture?
Oh no. You mean the 21?
No!
No! Oh, let's see. Oh, and Steven's probably going to upload that, isn't he?
Well, I don't know where it is. I don't know if I have it anymore.
Ah, ha, ha. Anyway, then.
I really don't know because, like, I deleted I deleted just about every picture that was from my, I deleted just about every
Excursion's video.
Yes.
Anyway, though, as I was
I
saying,
don't need those things anymore.
if I
I
make
don't
an
need those pictures anymore.
Oh, in that case, I can always make a screenshot.
Go ahead and do that.
if I may, we all know 1187 is in bad condition on the exterior, but from what I've seen of the actual interior, the locomotive isn't in terrible condition. It's in bad condition, but it's actually repairable. And, well, currently it's getting a cosmetic restoration, but you can't ignore the idea of the last Camelback in service running again, especially because it's the last 040 tender locomotive left in America. And, quite frankly, running that locomotive on a small tourist train, like, you know those slow-moving ones.
Andrew, you might want to rethink that statement of 040 tender engines.
What about it?
Because in Railroad Museum of Pennsylvania in Strasbourg, there's a Pennsylvania Railroad 040 tender engine preserved.
643, I believe it was.
Not a fucking diesel out here. They're trying to fucking.
Here, let me find a picture of it real quick before we get off track any further.
Well, then, anyway, though, let me get back to what I was saying. Because, I mean, 1187 has the potential because it's a small enough locomotive, but a strong enough locomotive to haul very short tourist trains. You know, like the kind of trains that would tour a yard, let's say. I don't know, like at the Age of Steam Roundhouse, it would be perfect because you just get one coach behind it, and then you can show people around the
Maybe
collection.
like 1 or 2 coaches, like 2, 3, or 4 at the most.
Yeah, it's only a 21,000 pounds of tractive effort, but for an 040, that's pretty bad. But
Also, Jason, Lino, would you like to look in the USA locomotives? If you see that video game screenshot, that's the engine we're talking about now. And do you want to know why it looks a little funny?
Yes.
Yeah, the reason why the cab is on the middle of the boiler is because the firebox where the fuel was burned was wider than, as I like to say, yo mama's hips, due to the fact that it burned a rather specific, dense kind of coal that needed a much larger firebox to burn properly. As such, there wasn't any room towards the rear of the boiler to mount the cab.
And so they put the cab
had to be
right in the
moved
center.
further towards the middle of the boiler, where the engineer would sit, whereas the fireman would be left back there exposed to the elements. These kind of steam engines are called camelbacks.
Was there a specific reason why it needed that special type of coal?
Yes.
Well, the thing is,
Well,
the Reading Railroad, which was the railroad that 1187 operated on in its early years, was they specialized in anthracite coal because, well, they were in anthracite coal country, in like Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Well, Stephen, if I may take the moment to explain why they used anthracite coal, actually. You see, anthracite coal burns much slower and much hotter than the more common bituminous coal, which most coal-fired steam locomotives use. So the hotter it burns, the more efficient it basically is. But, well, since this type of coal needs more oxygen to burn hotter, they needed a bigger firebox for it.
That makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Basically, anthracite coal equals bigger fire, which equals more motive power.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why these things...
More steam. More steam means more...
more power!
Yeah.
But you would also need a bigger boiler to get a hell of a lot more power. But again,
Yes.
it just comes at the cost of, like I said before, a firebox wider than your mama's hips.
But yes.
Ass we can.
But as I was saying, though, about the 1187, if it was to ever run again, it would be perfect at the Age of Steam Roundhouse because it can run those short trains around like with 1 or 2 coaches just around like a small tourist because it's slow enough, it's small enough, it's powerful enough, it's perfect for this job.
Andrew, if I may ask this, does the HST Roundhouse have like a whole yard complex then that's large enough for the engine to still
Yes,
make,
actually.
like, a little run?
Yes, actually.
If anything, what I was actually kind of thinking of is that maybe they could occasionally loan the locomotive out to, say, Kishko or the Fort Wayne Railroad Historical Society once they got their big museum complexes fully realized. So they can also run around in former railroad yards there.
Right.
Yeah.
Looks like, all
But
right, don't worry, the train disappeared, so it's not causing any, drama.
Okay.
But there is the concern about the FRA with the locomotive. Because, well, it's a camelback. Camelbacks...
If I may say this, at some point, due to a fear of driving rods snapping on the right-hand side of the locomotive where the engineer would sit, at some point in the 1910s, construction of new camelback locomotives became illegal. So you couldn't build those anymore.
Yeah.
Let me impersonate the FRA real quick. FRA, open up!
Okay, that one actually kind of sucks. How about I just impersonate the FRA period?
Oh, we're the FRA. Oh, we hate steam engines. We think that these motherfuckers operate these steam engines. We need to make sure that they're all under our little inspections. Because we all think that they are. We think that all preservation societies are on the same level as the Gettysburg Railroad.
And anyway, but yes,
But
11.
basically, but I guess like nowadays in preservation, like the main risk would be like, would it be safe enough, I guess, to to
Also, you're
to
sitting
repurpose it to operational condition. And again, the main thing is, do you have a good supply of anthracite coal for it as opposed to bituminous?
And that's actually what,
Strasbourg had experience with the locomotive on but the bituminous coal.
and it didn't work
needless to
well.
say, it didn't work that well.
But railroads out there have been known to get anthracite coal, because if they can operate 1113, 113, and they can operate both of these Reading T-Hogs, they should have a lot of anthracite coal. And what's wrong with having just enough for a tiny 040? Especially one, and well, if this locomotive is ever to operate again, it shouldn't go very fast because, well, one, it's over 100 years old, two, it's too small, and three, it wouldn't be able to go that fast anyway. So
Yeah, because it was built for yard duty.
yes, so what are the possibilities of the actual piston rods and the connecting rods actually snapping if you're going that slow with such a small train?
Also, can I point?
I mean, most times the rod. I mean, the biggest thing that I can think of for rod breaking would be if the locomotive were to go through a violent wheel slip, so much so that the crank pin actually snapped.
Yeah, but that's a very rare thing.
Also, can I
And
just
for
point
something
out?
that small, it should be impossible.
Yes.
Also, can I point out that I feel like either me or Steve Laro opened a really bad can of worms with the fame that 1187 has got. It's probably mostly Steve Laro because of his KNL model for trains, a new era or whatever. But, you know, I gave it a little bit more fame by talking about it in my own video. And then it moved to the Age of Steam Roundhouse, which gave it even more fame.
Yeah. So, but in a nutshell, do you guys think that 1187 has a chance to run again?
I think so, but it's actually a pretty small chance, if I'm being completely honest.
In a nutshell, I would just say, sure. Not a yes, not a no, just sure.
I would say equal amount of chance as a certain Class A has a chance.
Yeah. And plus,
But we're not talking about that, are we? Are we going to talk about 5021?
yes, we need to talk about 5021. We just,
Southern Pacific 5021.
yes, to be exact.
Let me post both of those here real quick. Let me just find good pictures of either of them.
No, the engine did operate in preservation. I think it was at like some sort of fairground somewhere, and then it was moved to the Rail Giants place. It was actually considered for the American Freedom Train.
But,
You know, and the likelihood of that engine operating is very low.
especially,
Because, well, good luck maintaining 3 cylinders, especially with Resley's conjugated valve gear on one of the middle cylinders, and not to mention, what else?
not
What
to
else?
mention the fact that when,
the reason why 9000 was never restored.
and also, wait,
Obviously,
guys, and not to mention the reason that she could probably never turn a wheel under her own power again, being that when she was brought back to the Rail Giants Train Museum, she was dropped and her third cylinder was damaged heavily.
drop like your balls.
Poor thing. The poor
Drop like your balls.
poor fuck.
How
The poor stupid
how
fuck.
much? Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, what exactly would have, like, the cranes probably would have had to have been pretty weak, or at least the chains holding them, holding the crane
That's
to
something
the locomotive.
water
would
here
have been weak.
because that is tiny.
Yeah, though.
No.
5021.
Anyway, but here's the fun game that I want to play with Lena. Guess which one of the two is the imposter?
Guess which one of the two is the one we're actually talking about?
They both have the same engine number, by the way, 5021.
Yeah. Well, I think this feels like a trick question, but I think you're talking about the first.
You mean the top one that says Southern
Yeah.
Pacific on the tender?
Yeah.
Congratulations, you're going through to the next round to win yourself a dishwasher.
But yes, that is the
Yeah,
one.
we are talking about that one.
All right. And now,
The bottom one looked too new. If you're talking about restoring stuff, that it's like the first
Well,
one.
yeah, well, the top one is an older picture. I'll give you that. The bottom one is a bit more recent, but it's looking a bit more bare.
Yeah,
If anything, I can provide you with a newer picture of the Southern Pacific 5021. Just major apologies for this post that's in the way, but even though I didn't make the picture myself, look at that.
Loading.
You can't say that the museum didn't look after it.
because the museum actually, because this museum actually was the caretaker of 4014, which, as we all know, is the reason they chose 4014, because 4014 was taken care of very well, and that's why they chose her.
Let me get a picture of that brute.
Everybody look at
That museum was also home to this.
Yes,
One of the world's largest steam locomotives, Lena.
but yeah.
and a giant solar magnet.
I mean, it may be, but you have to appreciate the museum that actually took care of 4014 before she got out there. I mean, how long was she at the Real Giant for?
But whatever.
Yeah, I know that they even gave it even the cab, at least as of 1993, was in excellent cosmetic condition.
And
Also,
not
keep in mind, this was Pomona, California, where climate is mostly dry.
and also keep in mind that every couple of months, or I think it was once a year, they would actually oil up the locomotive and move it back and forth slightly.
Yep.
Yeah, they took very good care of this locomotive.
Also, everybody look in general.
Let me see.
That's-
Let me see.
Oh,
Your crotch is exploding.
fuck you, Steve. We're honking you with a crowbar right now.
You know, anyway, I think time strikes again. Annoying 5 contracts. Yeah.
Anyway, we have 30 minutes. We have 30 minutes left of the stream.
Yes, and next we actually have another locomotive, which is also.
What Laird model has.
And speaking of locomotives, that have been taken care of very, very, very well, we actually have a We actually have a Yellowstone, and this one isn't the one. Yes.
Make it
Iron
Range.
No. It's the one that's stored in that inside. What is that one actually?
Oh, you're talking about Cab Forward 4294.
No, not 4294. That thing's fucked.
Inside number 227 or
Yes, 227. Because
Yeah, 227. I think they have a little bit of a generating thing. I don't fucking know.
Yeah.
That makes the wheels move.
220.
yeah, they have to run rollers, just like number.
Guys, if I may.
They have to run rollers just like 60,000.
Guys, if I may say, 227 has actually been taken very good care of, and has even actually been gone through a couple of cosmetic overhauls, and I mean a couple, like a lot. They've taken a lot of care into this thing. I mean, not only allowing the thing to actually roll on, those things to where the locomotive can actually, quote unquote, run in place, where,
Yeah, the driving wheels rotate, but the engine itself remains stationary.
Yes,
because there are rollers.
and by doing,
And it's right next to a boring ass electric locomotive. What
Yes.
a surprise!
but
Well, let me just let me be blunt here for a second. I think the electric locomotive is nicer to look at.
fuck you.
That's me saying this.
But anyway.
That's a face only a mother can love.
But anyway, though, 227, as we know, has been taken care of well, especially because she's been inside, gone many cosmetic overhauls, and has been on a rolling truck. And it's actually been discovered that this locomotive has a higher tractive effort than a big boy at 140,000 pounds, where the big boys only had a tractive effort of 135,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I mean, the big boys were big boys.
Still.
Yeah, no, the other thing too is the big boys were.
Anyway, so
the big boys were actually.
When 4014 visited the Lake Superior Railroad Museum in summer of 2019, bringing 227 outside to meet with 4014 was a completely missed opportunity.
That was yeah, you're right. That was a completely missed opportunity. I mean, the thing already rolls nicely. You could have just rolled it out, and you could have, I forgot to mention, they actually have also been taking care of the boiler as well. They actually,
And also, like, the other thing too.
Basically, my answer to the whole question of should it run again, I'm gonna be a picky bastard and say no.
I'd say that it.
So also, like,
I'd say that it can run again. Like, I don't say it should because it's huge, but I say it can.
I know it can.
Well,
Because
sure, maybe it can, but I don't think it should.
I mean, the big boys are. I mean, the only thing.
That's just because it doesn't look German.
It looks ugly. Like you have the exposed air pumps on the outside, paired with an Alesco preheater on the top. It's it's like everything's wrong.
I mean, also, the other thing too is that's coming out of someone who doesn't want to see an Allegheny run again just because it has smokebox mounted air compressors.
that actually leads us to another.
I'll admit, at least the Alleghenies weren't quite as hideous as these.
I mean, and also the other thing too is that the big boys actually were larger in terms of weight. Like particularly the second generation big boy.
Well, now that we've talked about, well, I guess since he mentioned the Alleghenies, let's march into 1601 because we all know 1604 is fucked. But 1601.
Now I can take a nap.
I mean, 1601 is a very easy. 1601 is a very easy one to talk about because it's been the root of the debate of the Alleghenies for so long. And, well, for a couple of reasons. One, it's been built into its museum. Two, I mean, it's actually been taken care of fairly well as well. Because when the locomotive occasionally they actually oil up the locomotive. They don't get to move it, but they do oil it. And it's gone through way too many cosmetic overhauls to the point where it always looks new, to say the least, and it's taken care of well. But why would we need a obscure, powerful steam locomotive in this day and age when excursions are mainly on small lines? But I mean, yes, we could use them on main lines, but when do we need it? Because the Alleghenies are huge, heavy, and they are, in fact, the tallest and widest steam locomotives ever built in America. So, yes, so it may be possible because of how it's taken care of, but why would you do it?
Unnecessary, and honestly, everyone loves Alleghenies. It's just kind of like they're just generic, great, simple articulated.
So I'd say no.
Like we've actually showed you a picture of the 1604 before, Lena, but here's a slightly older sibling locomotive.
And
so there's a little bit of a memory refresher for you, I guess.
And not to mention, imagine the costs of running that thing too, especially with the amount of coal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he already told us, Jim doesn't like it just because.
What?
I knew Jim doesn't like it just because of some lawsuit I forgot what was about.
But
yeah, that had to do with
Lima basically.
They misrepresented it on the
Lima
batch. And it was so bad that it caused a lawsuit because engineers and firemen from the CNO saw this miscalculation as an attack on their livelihood. and the railroad was forced to pay thousands of dollars in crewback pay. And in 1944, they sued the manufacturer of these Allegheny locomotives.
Lima.
Yeah, Lima, and they had to pay about $3 million and their pride in losing the suit. But also, about the 1601, it wasn't built into its museum, Andrew. It was indeed rolled into it, but it was so big that they had to actually had to remove the doors just in order to let the locomotive squeeze through. And to use a very appropriate Gachi Muchi quote, Gachi Muchi being memes made from gay porn.
Yeah, I guess because of my size, she can't open up any wider.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I had to do
the Alleghenies, like, for the people who want to debate about the Alleghenies ever running again, either send them to this video, or you can just tell them the straight fact that it's just too big, it's just too much to restore.
Yeah, it's too impractical in today's era.
Yes,
if anything.
especially in an era in which, a big boy barely got running again. And especially because they went over budget with that restoration. And
Yeah. But then again, that big boy did have the advantage of being preserved in an extremely dry climate with very good mechanical care from the museum volunteers.
Let me get about those locomotives. And you want to know? You guys obviously know why I don't like to talk about those locomotives.
what was that?
Screw you, Steven. Screw you.
I said my own way. I'd rather go that way.
Anyway, though, guys,
Not on what people bandwagon, okay?
guys, let's get to the next one.
Because you guys.
How much time do we have left now?
We have about like 19 minutes. But
All right.
here's one that I'd like to talk about. And this one is a very, very personal one, especially because the Santa Fe Southern actually almost chose this locomotive for restoration. And that would be Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe 1010.
What? They almost restored that thing?
Yes.
Let
Well,
me ask why they didn't end up
Hold
restoring.
on, let me make a bad impression about what 1010 looked like.
well,
Don't send it yet, Tim.
for those who don't know,
Here's a picture of it
for those
in black and white.
for those who don't know,
And basically,
guys,
here's a slightly cringier picture where one can say that it has earned the nickname. Yeah, Red Arrow. That's the very picture that I wanted to use for that.
anyway
So,
though, can I get to the
you
history?
gotta agree with it. That looks like a special kind of tree.
Can I get to the history?
Yeah.
Please hurry.
So 1010 is one of a couple of steam locomotives built by the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe that participated in one of the most famous trains by the Santa Fe, the Scott Special, a non-stop passenger train. And well, the 1010 was one of them. And 1010 has also been featured in a lot of movies and commercials and stuff. And recently, well, from the Santa Fe Southern and from what I discovered anyway, from John Howell, who was one of the managers, he actually planned 3 locomotives to restore, like, out of the choices. He had 3 individual for choices anyway. He had Santa Fe 9000, 769, and 1010. All 3 are very unique survivors with unique backstories. If you guys don't know, 9000 is the only preserved Santa Fe 060. 1010, you already know that, and 769, you already know that though. But
I thought
1010,
it was 9003.
no, 9005, 9005. But
Oh yeah.
2005.
The 1010 and the 9005 were turned down for a couple of reasons. The 9005 was turned down because one company had already bought the locomotive and it was too small for the trains that they wanted to pull. And then for 1010, it was too big and too fast to run on their lines. And so that idea was thrown out. But 769 was just right. So 1010 was sadly never pulled out of the museum. But do you guys think that 1010 would ever operate again by another company or even us again?
Yes.
Let me put it
Maybe.
this way, though. Let me put it this way: if they're willing to put up with the inherent naggles associated with a prairie type locomotive, that is the name for a locomotive with a 262 wheel arrangement. Because from what I've heard in the United States, they weren't that popular because they proved to be a bit unbalanced or whatever. But I've heard that 1010 was one of the better ones, right?
1010's class are, well, it's said to be the
I
most.
think it's sad. 1010's only Wikipedia page is so fucking short.
Because, well, in a nutshell, though, 1010 and its class were actually the best performing prairie types in the States here. The best.
Right.
So,
Andrew, you
Yes?
hated it in red, right?
yes, I hit it red. Stop reminding me.
Actually, it looks pretty cool in red.
Shut up.
Red arrow. Run it in red. Run it in red. Run red. Run, run, run.
Oh, Steven, I have an idea.
Right, how many?
I have an idea, Steven. Take that photo of 1010 red and Photoshop a photo of Owen in front of it. Piss him off.
Why do we want to rub this locomotive so much? It's not hug it, not squeeze it, just rub it.
Oh, hold on. Let me. Maybe the paint looks so smooth on it. Like, look at that creamy silver, shiny smoke box front.
You know what I'd like? I would like the red livery if there was striping on it. You know, like white and gold striping. That would look nice. And if the entire gold.
What is with that cow catcher? It's like, I swear, it almost looks like something from the. Not so sure.
Well, anyway, if Risa wants to rub this engine so much, let me play the appropriate music. I'm sorry.
No!
I'm sorry, Rita. You should have expected this one sooner or later.
Oh, yeah, yellow.
I hate you so much right now.
Oh, yeah.
And now, this one I've been saving for last. Not really
Wait.
last, but one of the last,
Wait.
because this one,
How much time do we have left in the stream?
we have
15 minutes.
about 13 minutes.
Yeah.
13
Can I
minutes.
talk about one locomotive for at least 2 minutes? Just 2?
Yes.
Just do
Okay, so Spokane Provincial Mikado number 539. Started out as the Northern Pacific number 1762, then became 539 in the mid-1940s, directly after World War II, and was retired and donated to the city of Astor Shore Park, Washington, and until 1997. That year, Brian Fleming, owner of the Mount Hood Railroad, decided to restore it to operating condition, but for some reason that never happened, and was traded in exchange for a Lake Erie Instrument 18 and 20 in 2007 by the Grand Canyon Railway. I wanted to restore it for more attractive FM motive power, but for some reason that also never happened. It was only recently it got sold to the port of Kalama for indoor display, so it's kind of landlocked now. Did that run again?
They put that engine in somewhat dismantled condition in a Grand Canyon livery. It's a little bit unfortunate because, I mean, with the exception of that weird Northern Pacific shake where they have a lighted number board on top of the headlight, it kind of looks pretty cool.
I mean, the other thing too is that like the headlight looks a bit out of proportion, but it still looks, but it doesn't look too
They
out of
could have
proportion.
lowered it a little bit, or they could have used a slightly smaller headlight. But I think it should run again.
I mean, then again, it could be worse. They could just. I mean, then again, it could be worse. They could stick air compressors on it, like they did with their articulated locomotives.
Not to mention, it is the one of only 2 Spokane Provincial steam locomotives left to survive.
I mean,
Only other obviously being 700.
I think it's a pretty cool.
What are we going to talk about?
All right. I mean,
What
I'm
were you
gonna say,
Andrew,
but
what do you think?
before that, I mean, I gotta say though, 539 actually looks pretty. It looks pretty thick. That's what it looks.
I mean, I've seen it in person, so I would have hated to see 1776 get caught up.
I mean, it's
I
nice.
don't know. We'll talk about 1776 in not too distant future. Right now,
But anyway,
I'm
though,
sure we have to get to the grand finale of this video.
and the big one, and we've talked about this one before, but not in this way, and that would be a Norfolk and Western locomotive. A Malay that has been beaten to death.
2156 is never going to operate against cracked frame.
Is it?
You know, even though it's a cracked frame on the frame, and then even though it's a tiny crack on the front of the frame, it's still probably going to get worse if you just.
You can see that. I mean, I'm going to disconnect you.
Oh, fuck you, Jim. Fuck you.
Just mute him. Tell the music warriors.
Anyway, though,
I'm going to get out and shoot you in the butt. No.
guys,
Yay, shoot him in the butt. Shoot him in the butt.
2156, maybe it's 2050.
well, guys,
Yeah.
I thought about this when I was looking at all like articulated and duplexes. I was looking at the idea of 2156 if it was to ever run again, because we all know that 2156 was brought out of the museum and was reunited with 1218 and 611. But I couldn't help but think, is the frame that bad by that tiny crack? I mean, I was
Well, let me put it this way: for heavy operations, I think it is.
yes,
So,
it
I mean,
is.
the reason the locomotives.
But the reason I bring up the duplex is because you obviously know how they're making, a new T1 from the ground up. They would obviously have to make a brand new frame for it. So, depending on the cost,
You're probably thinking cast a new front frame for the 2156, which would be already like a big, step forward to potentially getting it run again.
it would be a
But
big.
again, we still have the problem of who wants to pay for it. Where is it
Exactly.
going to run? How
That's-
practical is it going to be?
Exactly. 2156 is a very debated topic, especially because, well, one, it's pretty damaged in its frame, and two, it's a very historically significant locomotive. It's the most powerful steam locomotive in the preservation era, and yet no one has bothered to do anything big with it, except for
And just like 539 with 1776, 2156 also happened to have a sister locomotive distant that was a torch farewell to Steam Star, we all know.
2050. But
Oh,
2050 is fucked. Okay? 2050 is just fucked. But 2156 actually has the tiniest light. Just the tiniest bit of light. Because, I mean, the frame. If you take the consideration of the frame out of the way, and, oh no, let's just imagine for a second that what if someone cast a new frame? What about the rest of the locomotive?
Yeah, that's actually a pretty big question because for most of its life and preservation, the engine is set in St. Louis, which I believe is kind of like in the south of the states. And I think that it's not that St. Louis isn't particularly known for very dry weather. So
I mean,
You know what? I feel like they should have traded the 2156 to VMT in exchange for the GG1 they got. Because first of all, Pennsylvania never reached Roanoke, but they did reach St. Louis, right?
I mean, you have to keep in mind too that just like Louisiana, but not close to Louisiana, which was also the state that I lived in for a while. Missouri's St. Louis in particular is in a subtropical climate, so it's hot most of the year and it's freezing cold for those 2 months in the winter.
But now, considering the fact they restored a Malay, 1309, considering basically what we've done now, we've restored a big boy. We have restored a Malay. We've restored a freaking locomotive that was at the bottom of a river for 40 years. We have...
not that we're in Lego City. Because Lego's hearing this.
We have kept a freaking, we've kept Flying Scotsman running since birth. And we've also built a brand new Pacific from the ground up, and we are currently building a brand new duplex from the ground up. So what are the possibilities that someday someone is going to go up to the museum and ask for the 2156?
Well,
I mean, it's part of.
but it's probably going to be a similar case to the Yellowstone and the Allegheny. It may be a bit too big and too impractical, though.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing too is that's owned by the city of Rome. I'm not owned by. No, I'm thinking of another engine.
It's owned by the Museum of Transportation in St. Louis, and I don't think they want to part with the engine.
Yeah, no, I mean, the other thing too is that with locomotives such as, for example, 2156, like you already mentioned, it's it's impractical.
Yes, it's a very impractical locomotive. But what? If they let's just think, imagine. I mean, basically our answer for the 2156 is a medium no, because yes, we would love to imagine 2156 running again. We all know we would love to see it running, but what's the point? What's the point of seeing it, of having it running?
I mean, here's why. Because the last people who've seen a Y6 2174 run in person are slowly dying. Most of them are passing away by this point.
Yeah.
And also, if you're watching this, there's a difference between the Y6As and Y6Bs in tractive effort.
But yeah.
No, I'm here. Don't worry. My mom's here talking to me, so that's probably me on mute. But I'm listening. Don't worry.
But what I'm saying is, though, it may be impractical, but let's imagine. I don't know. Let's just say, Ross Roland or Dor McCormick decide to go up to the museum one day. It's I want to buy the 2156. Let's say that happens someday. I don't know. Let's just imagine that. Where do you think they would run it? I mean, obviously they'll run it on the main line somewhere.
It's home rails.
It would obviously run on the main line somewhere because it's big enough and it's strong enough. But where?
Somewhere in West Virginia.
Well, seeing as Norfolk and Western was a southeastern railroad, and also the fact that even though it did run in some parts of the Midwest,
I'd say that it would run. Yeah, I'd say about somewhere around. I mean, I would constantly imagine the 2156 just going over the horseshoe curve.
But that's former Pennsylvania country, right?
yeah, and also the fact that really I don't know how well they handle horseshoe curve.
Restore it and run it on the main line.
Oh, god damn it.
I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just dreaming about seeing this thing.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
I mean, even
Right
with...
before this live stream ends, I'll just say one thing, just one sentence about New York Central 3001.
Oh, actually, we have
How
3
likely-
minutes. We have 3 minutes, so say it quickly. Oh, 2 minutes.
It'll likely
Say
never
quick.
run again because of Royd's nest inside its firebox. There,
Yeah.
I said it.
Basically, if you guys don't know, the last New York Central mountain type, it's fucked. Because 2 historical...
There's 2 of them.
Wait, what? There's 2 of them?
That's the second time. Yeah, no, that's the difference. There's one is an L2D and the other's an L3A, I believe.
But anyway,
That's my fault.
I was kind of hoping we would also talk about Bessemer and Lake Erie 643, but I guess we're out of time.
Yeah, but on that
Mechanically fucked.
well, sadly.
Yeah, but on a final note, look at this. Look at this Chad color picture I found of the late, great 2174.
Oh wait, and also on a lighter note, are we still streaming?
Yes, we're still streaming at this moment.
Here we go. I'm going to impersonate Strasbourg's 90 whistles. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Wait, what?
I muted him on the server.
Well,
He deserves it.
Well, on that
Fuck
disappointing.
you, Jim, you fucking dipshit.
And on that bombshell, it's time. Yeah.
On that bomb. On that bombshell, it's time.
Next week's episode about. What's next week's episode about?
On that bombshell, it's time. On that bombshell, it's time to end. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week when we are going to be talking about mystery.
Oh, what's